So we want to talk about how to keep your privacy safe, and we're going to do that with our senior technology reporter, Matthew Braga. Thanks for coming in on this. We were just speaking in the commercial break, Matthew and I, about this. It's a bit of a jaw-dropper to think that for a long time, images of children just streamed everywhere and no one the wiser because they didn't know the situation was going on. And you were saying it's not an unknown problem, not an uncommon situation.
Yeah, I mean, this has been something that I think people have been grappling with for probably at least a decade, right? Where, you have these devices, they're connected to the internet, and people who are configuring them don't realize that they can be accessed from, the worldwide sort of, internet, right? They kind of think that, you can only access the camera from your local network, but they're actually exposed. And when they have default passwords and usernames, then that's when you can actually, watch what's happening.
So this was a voyeur website. I mean, I don't know the mechanics of this. What do? They're out there looking for any sorts of streaming video or images, or how does it work?
So there's actually a few services like this that operate, and the way they work is you're able to sort of scan or crawl the internet, kind of the way that Google does for sort of websites, but you can sort of crawl for these open, insecure webcams instead. And so it sort of searches around and picks them all up and plops them onto this website, and sort of just presents them as sort of, all these different cameras that are available to watch. Depending on the service, right? You see some services that say, well, we do this to highlight insecurity, right? We do this to highlight the fact that you should change your passwords and you should sort of, make your sort of security practice a little bit more secure. And that's sort of one of the arguments you kind of hear a lot.
Well, it certainly has drawn that into very sharp relief. 567 Canadian cameras on this very website where the Cape Breton School was also found. So it's something that is affecting Canadians. And as I was mentioning in the introduction, more and more people getting cheaper, more accessible security systems. This will be it should be a bit of a red flag. What do people do? Yeah,
so I mean, a lot of the same advice we talk about a lot with technology, which is, change the default usernames and passwords, make them really nice and secure, because the way a lot of these sort of bots that crawl the web work, they're just trying those default passwords, right? So even if there's a password, if it's the default one, they might still be able to sort of access it. So, that's a big one. Updating your software, making sure you're using the latest versions so that, there's no holes that people can kind of exploit. And also just sort of doing your research, right? Checking out to make sure that you're buying cameras and you're buying hardware that has a reputation for good security. And that's to say nothing of just even the sort of most basic things, which is maybe don't put the cameras in places where there's sort of sensitive things taking place, or if you're going to do that, buy cameras that you can kind of physically close, with sort of a shutter, let's say.
All right, but default password, I mean, if you're going to do anything, so change those. What kind of passwords do you like? What do you favor as far as being secured? Like not your name and not 1, 2, 3, 4, obviously.
Absolutely, yeah, not sort of common stuff like that. I personally use a password manager, and the reason I like using a password manager is because it generates passwords for me. It generates secure passwords that, I don't remember. You go into the password manager and it stores all of these passwords in sort of one place. And so the idea being there that, you just have to remember one really long, secure password rather than a bunch of, potentially less secure passwords.
All right. Good advice. Thank you very much, Matthew. Really appreciate you coming in.